Okay, let's do an example of consumer and producer surplus. We still have our graph up there that shows us where consumer and producer surplus show up in the graph, and we have our formulas. Now we have this example, we're given a demand function and a supply function, and we're asked to find the equilibrium point and then to calculate consumer surplus and producer surplus. So we can see that in the formulas for these things, we need the equilibrium point. So regardless of whether or not we're asked to find it, that's always going to be our first step, is find the equilibrium point. Find the equilibrium. And we know that the equilibrium point occurs when my supply function and my demand function are equal. So we can do this by setting supply equal to demand and solving. So in this case, I'm going to have negative 0.2 x plus 8 is equal to 0.1 x plus 2. So I'm going to add 0.2x to both sides to get 0.3x. And then I will subtract 2 from both sides to get 6. So here I get that x is equal to 6 over 0.3, which is equal to 30. Okay, so that's my x sub e. That's my equilibrium number of units. I need to find the equilibrium point. So to find the y value, I can plug that x value back in to either function. So to find my P sub E, we can plug the x value back in. To either function. So here we started by setting supply equal to demand, and now we're finding the y value, or rather the p value. So I'm just going to plug into 0.1 times x plus 2. So my P sub E will then be 0.1 times 30 plus 2, which is equal to 5. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Sorry, guys. I just realized that 6 divided by 3 is 2. So hopefully you noticed that. But if you didn't, this is actually a 20. Sorry about that. And that makes more sense. So that means this is not 30, but 20 here, which means this is not 5, but 4. Sorry about that. I can do math. Okay, so then my equilibrium point is 24. So x sub E, P sub E, is equal to 20 units at $4. Now my next step is, now that I have the equilibrium point, in this case I'm asked for consumer and producer surplus, so I set up and solve the integrals for the one that I'm asked for. So I know that my bounds for both of these things are going to be the same. In A was to find the consumer surplus. So consumer surplus was equal to 0 to x sub E, that's 20. And then we know that the demand function is the one that's associated with consumers. So we have our demand function. Our demand function was negative 0.2x plus 8 minus our equilibrium price, so that's minus 4 dx. Now to solve this thing, it's going to make sense for me to combine like terms first. So I'll have 0 to 20, I have negative 0.2x plus 4 dx. Now I integrate or find the antiderivative, so that's going to be negative 0.1x squared plus 4x that I'm evaluating between 0 and 20. So this is negative 0.1 times 20 squared plus 4 times 20 minus 0 plus 0. Now, a thing to note is that if I get a negative value, I did something wrong. Both my consumer surplus and my producer surplus should always be positive. So hopefully we're going to get a positive value here. 20 squared, that's 400 times negative 0.1. So that's going to give me a negative 40 plus 80, which is 40. So this is money, so we should conclude as if it is money, which means that this is actually a time when it's okay to have decimals in your answer. My conclusion here is that consumer surplus is $40. So in other words, consumers are gaining a benefit of $40 that they would have been willing to pay, but that they didn't have to pay. Now, my producer surplus, we know that the bounds of integration are the same. So we're going from 0 to the equilibrium number of units, but now I'm doing the equilibrium price minus producer is associated with supply, so minus the supply function, and here my supply function was 0.1x plus 2. So 0.1x plus 2. Now I want you to be really careful here because that supply function needs to go in parentheses because we are subtracting it, which means that negative is getting distributed to both things inside. So this is the integral from 0 to 20 of 4 minus 0.1x minus 2, 0 to 20 of 2 minus 0.1x dx. And this gives me the antiderivative of 2x minus 0.1 over 2, that is 1 over 20, so that's 1 over 20 x squared that I'm evaluating between 0 and 20. So I have 2 times 20 minus 1 over 20 times 20 squared minus 0, which gives me a 40 minus 20, which gives me 20. So in this case, that 20 is my producer surplus. Good news, I got a positive value. So the consumer, or rather the producer, is gaining a benefit of $20. The producer surplus is $20. That's $20 that they're receiving that they would have been willing to not receive. So the producer surplus of $20. And there you go. And in the next video, I'll do another example where we have to do a little bit more challenging things when it comes to finding the equilibrium point and factoring. So see you guys in the next video.